the national anthem.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free, and the home of the brave, home of the
Absolutely amazing every year. I do need my glasses. Okay, so moving on to the president's report. I will just take a few minutes to talk, and then we can move on with the meeting. First of all, welcome, and thank you all for being here. I know it's a busy time in everybody's lives, and we appreciate you being here and being part of this process. I would like to go around and have everybody introduce themselves, including staff that's sitting, so everybody knows who everybody is. So if we can just, you can start here. Great group of people up here. So the school board is responsible for setting policy and overseeing the resources of the school district. The superintendent works for the school board and translates those policies into action. It is important that we develop and maintain current and strong policies that are going to represent the interests of our stakeholders and that will develop our students to their highest levels. As this board works together with our superintendent, administration, and teachers, we are very clear that we strongly support the parent right to guide and direct their child's education, and that we expect full transparency on all levels. It is our mission to partner with families, students, and the community to provide students with the skills needed to enable them to be productive, responsible members of a free society. It is our goal that every student will reach their full potential and have success with whatever path they choose post-graduation. Over the last year or so, some of you have attended some of our committee meetings. We have 2 active committees. We will be adding another one that we have had in the past, but we're going to start doing more with it next year. Educational Services Committee, and that committee reviews all curriculum, new and current, and they meet on a regular basis. And we also have a policy committee, and that's the new committee we started this year. And that committee is reviewing all proposed policy changes, creates new policy, and will start an ongoing regular review cycle of all of our policies to ensure that they're relevant and match our stakeholders' interest. By having these committees, we are able to take a much deeper dive into the agenda items than we are at a regular school board meeting. So we are there, we get community input, we can take a lot of time, we can take as much time as we need at those committee meetings. Once the committee feels comfortable, they then will make recommendation to the school board on each agenda item that they look at. These committees are open meetings, so we encourage community members to come and give your input, so feel free to join us anytime. Those are all listed on our website as to when those happen. So as many of you know, Dr. Kelly Thompson retired officially this year, so this board has been tasked with the process of hiring a new superintendent. That is a big job. It's an important job for us, and it's probably the most important job any of us will ever do as a board member for Muskego. We are working with a consulting firm, and we work closely with them during this process. We recently did have several public forums where some of you were there. They met with staff members, they met with all kinds of different interest groups where they created a superintendent profile for the board to use as a guide as we look at the different candidates that come forward and apply for those positions. So thank you for those of you that did contribute to that. We do appreciate that. We are also closely monitoring the referendum projects that are going on. There's a lot of changes, a lot of additions, a lot that's happening. We have just recently approved, I can't tell you how many new classes that are as a result from the additions that we are adding to the high school and to the different areas of our district. I will close by saying thank you, parents, for being involved in your child's education. Advocating for your child and actively participating in their education has a positive impact and makes a significant difference. Thank you to the teachers and administration for all your hard work, dedication to the students in our district, the innovative programs, the strong commitment to the academic excellence, and the support system in place have created such an atmosphere that fosters such growth and learning in our students. So thank you again for everyone for being in attendance. Please reach out to me anytime that you would like, or any other school board member. All of our contact information is on the website, so you can easily access that. That is the end of my report. So moving on to, we're going to do the election and appointment. So I'd like to appoint a parliamentarian. I'd like to appoint Lori Cotney, if you would accept. Thank you. And for elections for the annual meeting, this is your meeting, so you guys will be making the motions. When you do make the motions, you're going to come up to the microphone, state your name and your address. We do have them written out in the book. We will read through them. So we just need you to make the first and the second motions. So right now we need to look for somebody a nomination for a chairperson for the meeting. Are there any nominations? Are there any other nominations? Any other nominations? Any other nominations? Okay. With no other nominations in order, Terry Boyer, will be the chairperson of the meeting. So moving on then to the superintendent's report.
Can we call the presentation up, please? Thank you, President Boyer. For those of you that are unfamiliar with me, my name is Jeff Peterson. I am the interim superintendent for the 23-24 school year. I couldn't be more proud to be serving in this role, as this is my 17th year in the district. Previous years, I served as 8 years the assistant superintendent for continuous improvement, and then 8 years as an elementary and middle school administrator. So tonight, really, we feel our purpose as an administration is to really give you a state of the district. And from multiple perspectives, we would say that the district is in good hands and is in strong shape. So you might say, how is that even possible? To begin with, we have amazing people that we have the good fortune to be able to work with day in and day out. If you don't have amazing people that are doing the right work, we simply can't do the things that you're going to see happen, some of the outcomes that you're going to see tonight that administration will be presenting to you. The other thing would be our strategic plan. So that sets Muskego Norway schools apart from many school districts. Not just the simple fact that we have a long-range strategic plan, but we actually do something with that strategic plan. Our plan actually takes legs, it has a life, and it continues to live on in every single one of our classrooms. You can see it up here. It's broken down into several pieces. I'll talk a little bit more about these three areas in just a little bit. So not only do we have a 5-year long-term strategic plan, but we also have an annual strategic plan. We call that our eye on the goal. And that is so important in the work that we do day in and day out. It's our annual plan that allows our system to be agile, to make moves on an annual basis based upon the data that we see and shift our practices so that we see better student outcomes. So as I alluded to earlier, you can see 3 areas here that we call our focus areas or core competencies. If you will, these are the muscles of the organization. The heavy lifting, the work that gets done is all tied to these 3 focus areas. And I will read them to you. Tough to read all the way back there. But one of those core competencies is exemplary student learning and engagement. The second, highly effective personnel and expert teaching. And then the third one is sound stewardship of resources and strong community support. We've said it for years. We can't do this work alone. We need the support of our community. We need you as a community member to be able to link arms with us in order to do some of the heavy work and heavy lifting. And then here, overarching, if you will, there's this umbrella of continuous improvement in our system. When we ask about decisions that we make, we always ask this question: is it good for kids? And is it going to help move the needle as it relates to outcomes for students, for staff, and for our community? On the right, you see annual goals for 23-24. Another thing, if you were to go deeper into our strategic planning process, this is an example of the high school's Eye on the Goal plan. Every single building, every single department at district office has a plan. They have goals, and they have strategic actions that they put in place intentionally, and those actions are monitored daily, weekly, monthly, and throughout the entire school year. It's these things, these goals, and the actions that are aligned to the goals that help us achieve what it is that you'll see tonight. So what is some of that work that we're doing for the 23-24 school year? As you heard earlier, we have referendum projects that need to be finalized and complete on time. The second thing, we want to continue to focus on recruiting, onboarding, retaining highly impactful staff. We know that it's a competitive environment out there to secure the absolute best. We believe that we have the best in place, and we want to make sure that we continue to focus on keeping those people that have helped us achieve the outcomes that we have. The third thing is make sure that we continue to focus on reading and math achievement. We know that it's those skills and those strategies that are going to help our students, not only in the K-12 environment, but also once they graduate from school, what are those skills and strategies they will need to deploy in order to be successful? We want to see them grow, and we want to make sure that they're college, career, and community ready. We want to build expertise in what we call research-based strategies. Some of those are listed up there. Professional learning communities. How do our teachers collaborate with one another? What's the work that they're doing during that collaboration time? What assessments are they looking at? What strategies are they talking about? Who might be underperforming in their class or in their grade level? And how do we support and build scaffolds for those kids to continue to achieve? Standards of focus, those are the things that we want to guarantee that every single student, when they finish, let's just say grade 3, they are secure with. We guarantee that students, when they finish 3rd grade, will be secure or proficient in those standards. And then also common formative assessments. How do we know if students are on track to achieving those standards? We use common formative assessments to help us understand that better. We're talking about target groups at each one of our respective schools. Typically, that's the bottom quartile of students that are achieving at the bottom quartile within each one of our respective buildings. Why are we doing that? Because we want to close gaps for kids. We want to make sure that all of our students are proficient by the time they graduate from Muskego High School. And then lastly, attend to continuous improvement efforts related to student engagement. How engaged are our students? Not just when you walk by a classroom and see, are they busy, but are they cognitively engaged? Are they engaged in deeper thinking? That's meaningful, and that's when we see growth happen. And we care about what our parents have to say. Feedback and partnership with parents is extremely important in growing our system, as well as employee experience and employee engagement. So what we have up here, and I'd be remiss if I didn't share this every single time I had an opportunity, is to talk about this Leadership for Learning framework by Doug Rees that he developed back in 2006. If you take a closer look at this, you might say, well, where do we want to end up as a system? Or if you own a business or organization, where do you want to be? You want to be right here. In other words, the work that adults do leads to positive student outcomes, positive parent engagement, positive student engagement. And the thing is, if we know why we have the results that we do, in other words, the work that we do as adults leads to those outcomes, there's a great chance that we can replicate those across our entire system. Sure, are there times when our results are lucky? Perhaps, but how do you replicate luck? We have to know by doing a root cause analysis about the work that we do and how that leads to the outcomes. I would say we're doing pretty well. This next slide, down at the bottom, we reference Nietzsche. If you're unfamiliar with Nietzsche, it actually is online. It is a website that many parents use, not only in our region, but across our state and across the country. And what it does is it ranks school districts in the state and across the entire country. As you see, Muskegon Norway Schools this past year, this came out about a month ago, is ranked number 2 in the state of Wisconsin. That's, thank you. That happens because of the hard work of our adults, the commitment of our students, and the partnership with our parents. Again, the things that we put in place as adults lead to those particular desired results. And we can say ratings only go so far, but when parents are out there shopping districts, they're taking a look at who's performing and who's not. Where is Muskegon Norway rated? And is that a system where I want to send my kids to be educated? Turn it over to Courtney and Andy. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff.
I feel like we're going to have to move around. Jump around.
All right, so once again, I'm Courtney Arnson, the Director of Elementary Student Learning.
I'm Andy Bentley, the Director of Secondary Student Learning.
All right, so Jeff shared some information with us that allows us to answer some of those questions. Are we lucky, leading, losing, learning? What we also do is we have metrics that help us monitor that. With those metrics, we have goals that drive that work. So one of the areas that we focus on, obviously, are the academic achievement of our students. We have a long-term goal to be one of the top 3 school districts in Waukesha County, and then a short-term goal to monitor how we're doing is to be at or above the median. So, there we go. This data is forward exam data. So this is not really broken apart, desegregated much. This is just one view. We do a lot more with this data than what's portrayed really on this slide right now. So just a little bit more information about that. We do have all of our leaders in with us over the summer months. We engage in a data retreat. We take this data in addition to our progress monitoring data, our universal screening data, and we look at it many, many different ways. So this is just a capture here for you of how we're doing connected to those goals that were just outlined on that last slide. So ELA would be a combination of reading, writing, speaking, and listening. And as you can see, right now we are second. If you look really close, there are 3 districts all with the exact same score. So us and the two following districts, but overall doing extremely well in that area. Again, this would be 3rd through 8th grade data all combined. And then with math, a really great celebration. As you can see, for the 3rd year in a row, our performance puts us number 1. So that is, once again, a celebration. So here is just another view of the data and the goals that we have set. So again, ELA and math, this would be representative of just students with IEPs. So Muskego showing 3rd there, and then for math, 4th. So another view of that data. There we go. And then one additional way to look at this would be just be broken out by individual school. So working toward continued growth, we know that we have varied results across the system. So our operations, again, as Jeff had mentioned, taking strategies that we know are tried and true and having an opportunity to spread that across the system is something that we continue to work toward. So we have systems in place that we hope to strive for continued growth across the board. So this, again, is a view of ELA, so reading and writing on the forward exam. And then this is a view for math school comparison. So our schools in our district, our 3 elementary schools, are colored red for you there. Okay.
I'm going to try to talk without the microphone because I always botch microphones. So this is our middle school data. You can see a couple things I want to highlight, and we'll go back to the previous slides too. With ELA, you can see that our 2 schools are both in the lighter, like beigeish color, and in the green, which is again that meeting that median, and then the top 3rd. One thing I would say about ELA, and it didn't come up in the first slide with 3 through 8. We've seen several years of growth with ELA in our district at the 3-8 level, and including at the middle school. So definitely leaning into that continuous improvement. We're starting to see movement forward there, and that's really exciting for us. In math, we have the 2 middle schools, Muskego Lakes and Lake Canute, number 2 and number 3 in the Waukesha County School Comparable, contributing to that 3-8, where you see the 3-8 we were at the top in the county. And we're going to get to the high school data. Maybe. Exciting suspense-building drama here, right? We are at the high school. You'll see that we're in the top 3rd, also in that darker green. And if you can see this extended out, 22, 23, 21, 22, and then back here, you can see a trend upward there too. That 22.8 is the highest that's ever been from Muskego, which is outstanding. And I think it's really a reflection of our whole system health too. We've seen this trend of student improvement all the way through our system, and our high school has done a lot of work with PLCs, with assessments, and you're starting to see that whole system health, which is outstanding. Our students with disabilities at the high school are 4th, 16.5, and again, if you can extend this trend out backwards, it's all we've been able to maintain in the top several districts in the county every consecutive year, which is outstanding. And that's the last slide. She's clicking, but nothing's going to happen. So. And I'll turn it over to Ms. Schroeder. You're going to swap the clicker?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hello, everyone. So I'm Robin Schroet, the Assistant Superintendent for Continuous Improvement, and I'm going to share a little bit about our highly effective personnel and expert teaching. So just to share a little bit about why we are that destination workplace. So here in Muskego, we believe that every employee should love what they do, believe that it matters, and know that they make a difference. It's an important ingredient to an employee and their engagement at work. So we are incredibly proud of our results around employee engagement, and as you can see by our graph, how well we have done. In 2023, the survey questions changed as to focus on the employee total experience in the district, broadening the lens to focus on multiple supervisors. So it really kind of opened that up for us. We continue to be awarded the Top Workplace Award for the 7th year in a row. This past year, we also were awarded the Meaningfulness Award. This is an incredibly special award, and we are so very honored to receive it. Gathering information from our parents is extremely important to us, and we value the input that our families provide. Our most recent results indicate that our overall parent satisfaction still remains high. It is comforting to know that our community takes pride in our schools, as this can be evidenced by this single question. I am proud to say that I have a child at this school. This year, we reached an all-time high with a score of 4.46, and that, again, is out of a scale of 5, so pretty amazing.
Thanks, Robin. I'll be sharing a little bit about, I'm Jeremiah Johnson. I'm the Chief Operations Officer. Help with all of the referendum projects going on and some exciting things around that. Apparently it doesn't work over here. We are running on track and on budget for our projects that we started almost a year ago now, maybe 9 months ago. All of them are on track to be completed by this upcoming summer. Some of them actually completed this past summer, and I'll share some of those. This was kind of fun. One of the first things that was done this past summer was an additional parking lot south of the stadium. It was kind of cool to see that the scallywags over at Google didn't update their map for like 10 years, but it's just neat to see how far our campus has come out around the football field. The parking that was done was actually necessary because the buildings that are being built took up a lot of the parking spaces that were where those buildings are now. So at the start of next school year, we will be net neutral for parking as we were before all of the construction projects. This is just a look. One thing that's nice is when we built the stadium, we intended for this to be the main entrance, and for a long time it kind of sat on an island without a parking lot. So we have handicap accessible parking right at the entry gate of the stadium and a parking lot rather than a field. One of the projects that was also completed this summer, and this was using fund balance, this wasn't a referendum project, was to complete a renovation of our band and chorus rooms. These rooms were fairly new, built in 2002. At the time that they were built, our band program had approximately 100 kids, and we've since fluctuated between 300 and 400 students in the program. So you can see the picture on the left, what it was last year compared to now. There's much more elbow room, and when the whole band is in there, it's just a lot more reasonable. And this is the choir room, also really just expanded within the walls. And we were able to do this by moving our storage across the hallway. So we weren't building new buildings or anything as part of this. It was just expanding within the current box that they were in. This is our new dance studio. So on the left, at one point, a long time ago, this was actually a backstage area in our old North gym. Then it was our wrestling room, and then over the last few years, it's served as storage, and it's now become a dance studio. We have a really talented dance team, and in addition to that, the folks that are doing plays and productions can come in here and do practice and really see things before the show. Our North gym was renovated, so this gym was originally built in 1958, so when we redesigned it, we gave a little bit of a throwback vibe with the old M. This was the original logo to the school. And on the side courts, it says established in 1958. And we even went with an older grade flooring in there just to give it that old nod to its original glory. And on to some of the bigger projects that are happening. This is our Health Science Edition that's coming along on the south side of the building. It's totally on progress. I believe that the turf will be going inside of the practice facility this December, and we're getting delivery of the floor for the weight room in June, so all will be in progress to be moving in this summer. This is a view from inside the practice facility. So a lot of folks may get the impression that this is a football facility, and this is really an all-purpose, any outdoor sport and indoor sport facility. So there'll be a track running lane on one side of the facility. It'll be striped for baseball, softball, soccer, drop nets for hitting drills. There will be opportunities to do golf. All types of things can happen in this facility, and it really helps when 9 months out of the year weather is really shaky and our athletes have to get practice in. Rather than being on wood courts, they're actually able to be in a situation that is more like where they practice. And also our band will be able to practice in here during those hot summer months when they're getting their marching band ready. This is a look from the outside of the fitness facility of what it is and what it's going to be. And this is our health science edition. This is coming along every day. You'll see new walls because steel will be going on the roof deck on November 11th. So by November 11th, all of the walls for this section should be up, and the roof will be following. This is a garage that was, it used to be attached to the high school. We moved it over to the district office, and it's currently serving our auto shop students as their new shop is being built. And then it will be our grounds maintenance shed, or garage. And this is the gymnasium that we're putting up at Lakeview. And so this is also running on time and for schedule to be completed in the spring. It's a little bit tighter of a construction site, so they can only have one trade on at a time, but still running on schedule.
We will move on to the treasurer's report, and that is Kevin Zimmerman.
On July 1st, 2022, the district general fund balance was $17,015,910. Total unaudited general fund revenues for 2022 to 23 are $63,892,117.89, while total unaudited general funds expenditures are $64,607,085.22. On June 30th, 2023, the unaudited year-end general fund balance is $16,336,932.77. The fund balance represents a 25.3% of expenditures and positively reflects the board's ongoing commitment to maintain a healthy fund balance.
Thank you, Kevin. Now moving on to new business, and Julie Kelly, the budget master.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. I'm going to sneak over to this side so I don't stand in the way. Who's got the clicker? Oh, thanks. Okay, so for the budget part of the presentation, we're going to touch on financial highlights from this past school year. We will look at the 23-24 budget and the budget development process. And then we'll also talk just a little bit about the 24-25 budget planning process, which starts in about a month. I'm going to try to follow through the booklet. So if you look on page 8, we're going to start talking about district debt. So the board has been very specific about what they are doing with the budget and ensuring that money that we have available is utilized in a way to help pay down debt as soon as possible. What that has allowed us to do is it has allowed us to pay down debt and add the new, most recent referendum project financing without increasing the debt levy. When the board went to borrow the money for the most recent project, we did have monies available in fund balance, and so we were actually able to borrow $3 million less and save on interest earnings in the future. On that page, you'll also see this is our debt schedule. The debt on the left, the $40.375 million, is our most recent borrowing for the high school project and the Lakeview project. And then the $43.18 million debt summary on the right is our previous referendum. And this graphic just shows that what we did with the debt levy is try to keep it as consistent as possible moving forward so that we didn't have any huge fluctuations in the tax levy. And we, again, continue to look as we move into the future at ways to pay down that debt sooner when possible. As far as the budget development process, we are under what's called revenue limits within our state. And so when you think about how schools are funded and we are capped at a certain revenue limit per student. And those factors that make up that revenue limit include our resident pupil count, and we also can count some of summer school. So any of our students who participate in summer school courses, we are able to count 48,600 minutes of participation as one additional FTE or full-time equivalent student. That helps us to get an additional $11,000 per student per FTE as we move into the budget process. So when we think about our revenue limit and why it's so important, we are given that cap based on the factors of pupil count, our equalized valuations, which the Department of Revenue sets for us, and then also our state equalization aid. And if you think of our revenue limit as a pie, the state equalization aid fills that pie, and then the balance of what makes up that circle is tax authority. And so that is what we are able to go to the community and ask for as far as tax levy purposes. So here's an example, just another way to look at that. It's not a circle, it's a bar chart. But 52.1% is how much aid we were anticipated to receive for the upcoming year. And 47.9% would be the tax levy portion that makes up our total revenue limit authority. Before I go on to pupil count, what's interesting about how schools were funded this year, so there's a huge, on that page, there's a huge description of understanding the revenue limit. We won't read through that. But what's important about how schools were funded this year, so in the past, schools have been given revenue limit authority, but they haven't been able to grow the pot, or the pie, as we call it. Instead, we were given categorical aid outside the pie. So taxes and state aid were very controlled because that pot wasn't growing, and it was simply just a matter of figuring out where you fell on the scale and how much money filled that pot. This year, what's different is that we actually received a significant amount of money per student, about $325 per student, to actually grow that pot. What happens when you grow the pot is as the state gives us additional state aid, depending on how much state aid they give us, we have to make up the rest through tax levy. So when we talk a little bit in a couple minutes about tax levy, you're going to see that it is different than we've talked about in the past. We are looking at a tax levy increase, and we will talk about what that actually looks like and the net impact to the taxpayers. Again, pupil count and summer school count does help us. Unfortunately, if you look at the graphs, you will see that we are starting to decline in our resident enrollment. That has been a trend for us. There is a factor built into the formula that helps us not feel the impact of that full 11,000 per student as we lose students, but it does contribute to how we have to look at and manage the budget moving forward. Again, here's the resident enrollment trend. You'll see a slight dip moving into the 23-24 year. Outside of the revenue limit, we can also bring in additional funding to help support our budget. And we can do that through grants, we can do that through federal aid, we can also do that by open enrollment. And open enrollment allows students to choose which school district they want to go to regardless of residency. So in 22-23, we had an increase of 27 students, and we will see an increase of 31 students in 23-24. We do get about 8,600 per student for all of our open enrollment students that come in. What's good and what's positive for our district is that we have more students coming in than we do going out. So there's a net profit for us, and we are able to maintain additional funding to support the overall general operations of our budget with those open enrollment students here in our system. And here's a chart just to show you the open enrollment in students are in the black line, and the green line shows the out. Again, that gap is getting bigger for us. At one point, we were pretty close to even. Moving on to equalized valuation. So equalized valuation is determined by the Department of Revenue. Those numbers are provided to us on October 1st. what the equalized valuation is important is because across the state of Wisconsin, we are in an equalized funding formula. So the way that the state looks at funding is the more aid you get as a district, the less property rich you are. The more property rich you are, the more you should be able to support your schools with taxes. And so they determine that equalization aid for us compared to the state. It is different than assessed valuation. And so this is the number that we use when we look at how our aid is funded. In 22-23, we saw a 13.37% increase, and in 23-24, 13.57% increase. We talked a little bit about the state equalization aid. We are actually seeing a decrease again, state equalization aid. The factors that go into that are resident student count, and also our equalized valuation, and also just how much the state is willing to support for us. So we are actually going to see a decrease in our state aid this year. Okay, so here is the comparisons. We talk about revenue limit authority and that pie. This is another way to look at it. The tax levy is the red line, the state aid is the blue line, and so as the state aid goes up or down, the tax levy goes vice versa. So even though we did see that we are trying to increase a little bit this year, you'll see, again, when we talk about tax levy, that there will be an adjustment as we move forward. So for 23-24, our preliminary tax levy is as follows. Our general fund is just over 24.8 million, and that's our general operations and special education services within our system. You'll see the debt service fund, Fund 39, that's the levy that we are able to set because the taxpayers approved separate referendums to support that levy. The capital projects fund is money that we set aside specifically for all of our capital projects. If we didn't use it separately in that fund to support those projects, it would roll back into the general operations. We have a very small community service fund levy in Fund 80 for $15,000. So our total property tax levy is 31.8 million estimated. Oh, sorry. Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about tax levy. There's a lot of information here. What this slide is meant to do, it's meant to show what our tax levy was last year, and you'll see that's 30.276 million here. And the number that we just talked about here is 31.8 million. So you'll see that we are looking at an increase in about 1.5 million overall in our levy. Most of that is due to our general fund, and again, that's a result of the state and giving us that additional revenue limit authority to grow the pot of money that we have accessible to us. Fund 41, again, going up just slightly. We budgeted a little bit less last year, but again, if that money wasn't there, it would go back up into the general fund. Our debt levy, as we had talked about with the referendum, is going down. So again, we continued to operate in a manner that we could pass the referendum and continue to see that portion of the levy stay the same or decrease. And then there's just a small chargeback at the bottom, and what that is if taxes aren't paid, we're able to levy for it the next year to get access to those tax dollars that we had to give back. So overall, right now, it's looking like a 5.13% tax levy increase. Because the state funded schools the way that they did this year, they also put a large amount of money into what's called the property tax levy credit. The property tax levy credit is something that schools never see. It's money we never have access to. It's simply a dollar amount that's given to the municipalities that are part of our taxing entities, and then that amount is deducted from our levy before it is passed on to each taxpayer. So that amount went up on average about 27%. So for this community, that's about a $1.3 million increase in funding that would be deducted. So when you look at the difference between the total tax levy of 1.5 and the school levy credit of the 1.3, that brings us down to an overall impact to the taxpayers of about $161,000 or 0.64%. Then, in talking with the city and the mayor, we know that net new construction is about 1.61%. What that means is that's new construction that was added to the property across the municipalities. So we're able to take our levy and distribute it across that additional property. So overall, the net levy impact is actually a negative $325,000, and looking like it would go down about 1%. All of these numbers are estimated in August, and all of our factors are not distributed to us until October. So even though this is the levy you will be voting on, we wanted to talk real quick about what this will actually look like at our 8 o'clock meeting when the actual final tax levy is approved. So again, keeping in concept the same numbers, but all of our final numbers came in. There was also a significant error for a very large school district in the state. And so because of that error in funding, we saw a dip in our state aid as well. So our numbers changed pretty significantly. So our total levy right now that we would be asked to approve is actually an 8.37%. Again, if you look at our general operations, we had a $1.5 or $1.6 million difference. It went up to a $2.6 million difference with those errors that were factored in at the state level. If you look at, again, our school levy credit, we are believing that it's actually going to be around 22%. So when we look at the overall levy of 2.5% increase, a school levy credit of $1.25 million, we're looking at a net levy of about 5.19%. Factoring in the net new construction, it looks like an overall net levy impact of 2.63%. So again, the previous slide shows what's being approved at the annual meeting. At the meeting at 8 o'clock, we actually approved the final levy, and these are the numbers that will be presented. We continue to show on page 12 of the booklet the net impact to the average taxpayer in Muskego. We have used the same property for years, and you will see that even this year, with a slight increase in the levy, we are still significantly less than what the levy was back in 2010. So we continue to see this downward trend in the overall levy. Oh, geez. The 23-24 preliminary general fund revenue budget, again, we show that in the form of if you took a dollar bill and you sliced it into pieces, which percent it would represent. So again, our equalization aid here is about 41%. Property taxes are about 37-38%. And then we have federal sources such as grants. We have other state aid, so we also receive $742 per student in categorical aid. That has been consistent over the last few years, actually since Act 10. So that number still remains a factor. And then we have just some other local, and again, our open enrollment here at 2.72%. Page 14 of the annual meeting booklet is our preliminary general fund expenditures. You will notice that 56% is salaries and 17% is benefits. So a very large chunk of our budget is people. But of course, we're in the service industry, so that makes a lot of sense. We also have personal services, contracted services, non-capital, such as supplies and equipment. We do have some larger capital items. We have our insurance. And then this debt retirement is actually a capital lease that we have for all of our technology every year. The last item just to discuss is fund balance. So people talk about school districts having a significant amount of money sitting in fund balance, and I have that chart available for you to review. Fund balance is not a savings account. It's not a dollar amount that we have sitting in our bank. On June 30th, that is the number that's on hand. But what that does is it helps us support the cash flow within our system. So schools are not given state aid. We get a small aid payment in September. We get a little bit larger one in December, and then we don't receive any additional revenue until we receive our tax payments starting in January. And those are distributed January, February, April, and August. And so we really have to balance all of our necessary expenses against when those dollars are coming in. So by having a fund balance that's healthy, we are able to support that cash flow for the first couple months of the year until we start to see that revenue coming in on a more significant basis in December. As I mentioned, we start the 24-25 budget development process in November. As Jeff had mentioned when he talked about our overall processes and our strategic plan, our budget process is an evidence-based, zero-based process. We like to take a look at our strategic plan and to make sure that all of our resources are aligned to ensuring that that plan is carried out. So we don't necessarily just roll our budget forward and continue to do what we've always done. We make sure that we're very specific with each of our schools and each of our departments and how our resources are utilized. And that is it.
All right. Does anybody have questions for Julie? She is happy to answer.
I don't have
Yes.
a question, but wow, you explain things really well.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Very good job. All right. Great job. I think that's why we don't have a lot of questions usually, is because of that. Okay. All right. Okay, so we're going back to page 3 of the book. It's a little different than what's on the actual agenda. So we're going to go to the clerk's reports, and Tracy Blair will read that.
I'm going to start off with page 7, though.
Yep.
All right. So for the 2023-2024 budget summary, for the 2023-2024 budgeted general operation revenues are $62,207,161, and budgeted general operation expenditures are $62,207,161, thus representing a proposed balanced budget. The tax levy projected based on the proposed budget is as followed. General Fund 10, $24,850,828. Debt Service Fund 39, $6,213,188. Capital Project Fund 41, $7,500. Community Service Fund 80, $15,000. Total property tax levy, $31,829,016.
Okay, so this, we're going to move on to the portion where we're going to need people from you to make motions and to approve the motions that are written in the book. We print them in the book to help you figure out what the motion is that needs to come forward. Some of you have filled out cards, but if there is anyone who wants to speak on any of these things during the discussion point, you just come to the microphone and state your name and address, and then you have, try to keep it around 3 minutes at the microphone. So Tracy's going to read through the motion, and then when she's done, then we'd be looking for a first and a second for that motion, okay? If you have any questions, just ask.
All right, so continuation of Capital Expansion Fund 41. A motion to vote a tax in the amount of $7,500 for the capital expansion.
Point of order.
$750,000 for the capital expansion fund for the purpose of financing capital expenditures at various district buildings and sites. Now therefore, be it resolved by the electors of the Muskego-Norrie School District, Waukesha and Racine Counties, Wisconsin, that a tax be levied in the amount of $7,500,000 to create a capital expansion fund for the purpose of financing capital expenditures at various district buildings and sites.
So we're just looking for somebody to first and second that motion.
I'll first it. And Zilke. Yeah, so it's 750,000. Yep.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Rick Pitfolsky. And any discussion? So if anybody, like I said, anybody who filled out a card or anybody who wants to speak during that discussion time, please feel free to step up to the microphone. Okay, and now when we vote on it, everybody can vote. We, as school board members, are also members of the community and taxpayers. Some of our staff is as well. We are also allowed and able to vote on these issues. And you all are to vote on them too. So on this, we have a first and a second. We have had discussion. So all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Aye. Oh, and by the way, Brett Hyde, who is not present, is right here in this little box. If you heard him. Sorry, Brett. Yes, I forgot. I had that in my head to say that before, and I forgot. Sorry, Brett. You told me not to forget to. Okay, and anybody opposed to that motion? Okay, so that motion passes. Next.
All right. Approval of tax levy. Following the discussions of the public hearing, a call for adoption of the levy is made. The following motions would be in order. Be it resolved that a tax for general district operations in the amount of $24,850,828, debt service in the amount of $6,213,188, capital expansion in the amount of $750,000, and community service in the amount of $15,000, for the total combined amount of $31,829,016 be levied on all property, real and personal, which is taxable under state tax laws within the Muskego Norway School District for the purpose of financing the operations of the public schools of the school district for the year 2023-2024 pursuant to the budget for this year as presented to the annual meeting.
State your name.
I move. Is that what I'm right?
Yes.
Thank you.
What's your
Debbie
name?
Brownlow,
Thank you.
W173S7955 Scenic Drive.
And do we have a second?
Second, Rachel Meyer, W145 South 6975 Brentwood Drive, Muskego.
Thank you. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. That motion passes. Next.
All right, board salaries. It is up to the citizens voting at the annual meeting to determine what the board salaries will be for the 2023-2024 school year. Currently, the board members receive a salary of $5,500 per year, and the president receives $6,500 per year. A motion is in order for the electors of the Muskego Norway School District set the school board member's salary at, I'll leave that up to you, for the 2023-2024 school year.
Okay, so, all right.
Chris Buckmaster in Muskego, Wisconsin. So I move in accordance with what I believe the district is going to be offering staff to raise the school board salary to $57.50 per year and an additional $1,000 for the president at $67.50.
So 5750 and 6750. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Who second?
Deb Schrader.
Okay, thank you. Discussion.
It's about a 4% increase.
Any other discussion?
What increase did your teachers get?
We are still in the process of negotiating. We have a compensation model that they work through, so we base it on an overall increase that we set for salaries and then distribute it according to hours.
So is there a number like on the table?
Is that around 4%?
We would be, yes, we have budgeted 4% overall for all salaries for an increase, but how it affects each person individually can vary.
Is different,
Okay.
Any other discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Nope.
I have a question.
That's okay, I did not see you. Sorry.
I have a question. Is this an open forum for other discussion, or is it just going to be about salary, and then we'll move on to whatever the next item is?
Yes.
Because I have something to say to the board, but I don't want to, I can put it in wherever it's going to be coming up. Like I put my little tag in.
Yep.
We're just voting on this budget right now.
Yeah.
And then after that is like open discussion.
There's an open business. Maybe she could do it there.
Is this regarding their performance or anything?
Well, it was last year. That would be helpful. It's all good.
Well, I'm just trying to see where,
Yeah, where it would fit.
Oh, yeah, just tell me wherever.
I mean, would it relate to this particular, to the board itself and the performance of the board related to that?
Could the parliamentarian help us out? I didn't hear what you said.
A motion's been made, it's been seconded, it's been voted on.
Well, it hasn't been. It's-
So the motion on the floor and what the discussion should be around is the actual motion. The actual motion that's on the floor is whether or not to approve the increase in salary for the board members and the president. The discussion around that can be based on performance either in the positive or concerns. So each person present is able to voice their opinion around that. But what we're actually voting on is the motion that's before you, which is whether or not to make that, to raise that. So if your point is in germane to performance, to support, you could certainly speak in support of the motion.
Otherwise, you have a second on it?
Yeah, we've seconded. We're in discussion. Are you good, Corey?
I'm sorry?
You're good?
Yep.
Okay. Okay, any other discussion? I don't want to miss anyone. Okay, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed?
No.
Yeah. Okay, let's do a call for the show of hands, please. All in favor, raise their hands. Opposed? Okay. The ayes have it. Motion passes.
All right, payment of actual and necessary expenses is also up to the citizens voting at the annual meeting to authorize the payment of actual and necessary expenses of school board members when traveling outside the district. A motion is in order that the electors of the Muskego Norway School District authorize the payment of actual and necessary expenses of school board members when traveling outside the school district in the performance of their actual duties.
I so move. Jim Brown, W173S7955 Scenic Drive.
Do I have a second?
I second it. Max Learn.
Any discussion? Hearing no discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it, motion passes.
2024 annual meeting date and time. An additional responsibility of the citizens voting at the annual meeting is to authorize the establishment of a date and time for the next annual meeting. A motion is in order for the electors of the Muskego Norway School District authorize the school board to establish a date and time for the next annual meeting. Such meeting to be held between the periods of May 15th, 2024 and October 31st, 2024, with appropriate advance notifications to electors in accordance with the Wisconsin statute 120.08.
I move.
Is that you, Jim?
Yep, Jim Brown.
Do you have a second?
I second. It's Jenny Brownlow.
Any discussion? Do we have a date in mind?
We actually have, we could do the 21st or 28th. Usually the city has a meeting though.
I don't have the calendar in front of me. I keep your motion as it is.
Okay, we can
We can
set
set
it
the
later.
specific at a future.
Okay, all right.
On Monday?
We don't ever have them on Mondays.
Okay. Can
Think
we-
farther away from Halloween, maybe, to get a better
I
turnout.
think we did that on this
Yeah.
one this year to stay away
Okay.
from Halloween also.
Yeah.
So October 21st? Okay, any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, motion passes.
Other business, disposal of surplus property. Board Policy 7310, disposal of surplus property directs the disposal of obsolete equipment. A motion is in order that the electors of the Muskego Norway School District authorize the disposal of equipment per board policy.
I so move. Jim Brown.
A second?
I'll second, Ann.
Thank you. Any discussion?
I just have a question, Jeremiah. Was this when we used to do like the little sale rummage sale, are we not doing that part?
Yeah, we haven't done the rummage sale in probably 5 years. The last rummage sale we did, we set up and had one person come through, so we use Wisconsin surplus pretty exclusively to sell items, and items that don't sell often we'll offer up to the private schools in the city here, and if not, then we would dispose.
Who is one of those people?
It might have just been Tracy that came through. She really appreciates that second grade desk she picked up that time.
The chalkboard in my basement, it's still there.
Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, the motion passes. I made it.
Okay, so open.
This would be the time.
This is the time, okay.
Open mic time?
Hopefully not. So hold on a second, I gotta open my phone here. I don't know if that will ever happen, but thank you. So part of my comments were inspired by Corey Houston. Part of my comments were inspired by some of the other meetings that I've either been to, watched online, and meetings that I've attended, community meetings. So that's where my comments are coming from. So tonight, I came tonight to publicly show support for the board and the work they have been doing on behalf of our community. I have attended several curriculum committee meetings, educational service meetings at board meetings, and I appreciate all your efforts to create the opportunities for the kids in this community, especially given all the classes that we're going to be onboarding this next year. But I'm also here specifically in defense of the board. Recently, accusations have been made that the board does not care for the kids of this community, that the board personally does not want the best for the kids of the community, and that they have a personal agenda over the safety and well-being of the children. Whether they have children or not, all members care about the well-being of children. We all care when a child is bullied or in pain or confused, and we all want children to feel safe, supported, and accepted. As we begin the next year, or as we go further into this year and face some of the controversial issues that the board is going to have to navigate on our behalf, it is critical that we keep in mind the focus on a healthy debate about what is best for the kids and not be tempted to make accusations against each other personally when we potentially disagree. We should understand that all community members want what is best for kids and want to keep all kids safe. Going forward, we need to acknowledge that although we all do not agree about what is best, it is that we all have the welfare of the children at heart. As a parent of this community, I do value the transparency in the curriculum of the board has of the curriculum, and I value parent contribution to the conversation about what is best for the kids. I assume that Muskego hires and supports professional teachers that deserve not only our recognition but our support. Now more than ever, we need constructive dialogue, and we need to focus on brainstorming issues, exploring innovative approaches, and ensuring that we do our best that we can for the children. Together, we can foster an atmosphere where the children take center stage and we can respectfully have dialogues with each other.
Thank you, Corey.
A little advice from Grandma. I'm going to date myself over here. I've lived in this community for 48 years, and I've had a front row seat in the transformation of Muskego High School. I've watched the construction and various improvements throughout the years. As a matter of fact, our dance group was the first ones to perform on the Performing Arts Center stage with the performance of The Little Match Girl at Christmas. And it was such a relief not to have to run out stage left, go behind the auditorium, run through all the hallways, and come around on stage right. And we did this with costumes and props, so kudos. This is a very exciting time. New facilities, a new superintendent, new curriculum, new books. There's a lot of moving parts here. Facilities, long overdue, and congratulations on the addition, but remember, it's not the building, but the educators that prepare our children to compete on the world stage. Superintendent, I trust you will select an individual that will mirror our traditional values and preserve our American way of life and make transparency a priority and not a suggestion. New curriculum, take the time and research the subject matter. Peel back the layers and research the authors. The authors will tell you everything you need to know. You want to be sure that progressive ideology doesn't crowd out critical thought and academic excellence. Policies. When you're writing policies, be very cautious of word manipulation. Be very precise and clear. If not, others will take those words and twist them to meet another agenda. The majority should never be intimidated or persecuted for not adapting to change traditional language to accommodate a relatively small group of highly vocal individuals. Books, let's maintain our children's innocence by restricting sexually explicit material in the classrooms and libraries. Moving forward, I'd like to see a strong, robust history program, not a Pollyanna version, not 1619 either, straight down the middle. Maybe establish a Constitution Club where students can debate current events with facts, not emotion. Black History Month, you could invite a few people to come and talk. I just spoke with Senator Julian Bradley yesterday, and he said, Max, you give me the date and I'll be there. Another gentleman would be Marquell Moore, who has a great success story that the kids would really enjoy. If you haven't already did the policy where I would rather see it opt in rather than opt out of the many surveys which are presented throughout the school year. And I challenge the school board to attend events other than the Wisconsin School Board Association so you can get a better picture of the educational landscape. There's a lot coming at you. Keep your head on a swivel at all times and don't take anything personal. And my primary concern is the welfare of the students, the teachers, and the community. Hopefully, you won't have too many distractions this year. You're on a roll. Good luck.
Thank you, Max. John, did you want to speak? John Engelhardt?
No, I just filled that, well, to attend.
All right. Would anyone else like to speak? Going once, going twice. Okay. Then we are at.
Motion to adjourn.
Oh, geez. All in favor? Aye. We are adjourned.